and then you can do it. And so you'll get that stretch in your own practice a little bit different than a regular practice, right? And that way, you'll get that in your body, and then I'll go to the comments. Does that make sense? Yeah? All right. So, if we're teaching Angel in the Snow on the Blocks, these are people who have never done this before, but we've deemed that it's safe for them. So maybe ultra gentle people who are a lot more restricted or thoracically rounded, this might not be appropriate for them. So in general, what I like to do is show up with a student. So I'll ask the student, Miranda, would you volunteer? And she says, no, then you go on to that. So he said, Dale, I have never had anybody say it. So, and I always pick somebody who's not injured, because I want to be able to move them without that, right? So in Angel in the Snow, the intention is to open the chest by lifting through the back body. And this is a position where we want to get the props right. So one block will be at the base of your shoulder blades, like this. Not up around your neck, not down here in your kidneys, but here at the base of the shoulder blades, flat, like this. The other block will be at the base of your skull. Sometimes a common error is to put it too low, and then the block ends up sitting on an angle like this. So this isn't so useful either. We want the block to end up a little bit higher. Sometimes, depending on your neck length, that will change. Sometimes it will need to be like this. So let me support you. So see where I put my hand, which is coming down? So I support her weight to roll back. And as I'm doing that, I have this block. I'm ready. So if she starts to come down and I've accidentally got the block here, I can move it right away. Yeah? So Miranda, if you would, let's roll down. And I'm estimating. Yeah, and I have her head. So go ahead, put your head down. Nice, good. And then I just kind of look. All right, so here she is. She's got her upper back supported, her head is lifted, and her chin is down. If you get on here and you feel like your head can't reach the block, thank you. So say, or go ahead like this. Actually, that's kind of nice for her. See, for her neck length, that looks kind of nice. Her head looked a little bit forward before, didn't it? So we're going to have to make those differences, those determinations based on each of you. If this block were not there, go ahead, she might look like this, and this breaks her neck, yeah? So if that's you on any height of block, you might put a blanket on your block, and we'll go there individually. Okay, so I think that's going to look good on her. So when she puts her hands beside her thighs like this, you can see the heads of her shoulders rolling forward, yeah? Let's just see, can you see over there? Let's just see, if at all, hey, do you mind closing that door? It's kind of cold. Oh, you're practicing.
You're practicing.
No. All right. Yeah, I don't want, especially now that you've just practiced, I don't want that cold air hitting you. So let's just see when she turns her hands over if her shoulders change. So a little bit. You saw this open a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Now, this is like you're making an angel in the snow, as she bends the elbows, and I'm just going to, you follow with this arm and I'll with this arm, and she moves some shoulder height. Now you've seen that roundness in her shoulders come out quite a lot, yes? So as opposed to being like this, now she's getting those shoulders back and down. So for most of us, as we do this, thank you, Suzanne, taking the knuckles on the floor to shoulder height is kind of a good choice. It will give you this. If you have a shoulder injury and moving your arms in this way already is no good for you, you know that's going to hurt your shoulder, you would work one arm at a time. If you have both shoulders injured, then let me help you and we'll find something else. But say Miranda knows she has a shoulder injury over here, she would lay that arm down and she would just practice with one arm first, because inevitably if you're practicing with both arms and one shoulder's hurt, it's easy to tweak your shoulder, so you don't want to do that. Okay, but let's say that now we don't have a shoulder injury. So from here, this is where it gets a little dicey in terms of safety. If you don't know how stretchy your shoulders are, and you force the knuckles to stay down on the floor, it could be a little bit too much for your shoulder joint. So for safety, it's always good at this point, at shoulder height, to lift the arms up a little higher than you think you might need. And from here, with elbows soft, we're making an angel's wings or a halo over our head. When we get to the top, we want to reach back as far as we can So that, can you hold this arm, you okay? So that you feel this long line of stretch here through the latissimus dorsi. Then she softens the elbows, and as she does, you can see her neck start to relax. If she didn't soften the elbows and just started to take her arms down, her neck would be tight, right? So the softening of the elbows allows, can you hold your arms there? Allows these trapezius to soften, yeah?
It also changes her back. It went from really arched to it kind of
Right.
kind of settled back down onto the mat.
Right, right. It lets her ribs drop. Yeah, you're right. So it brings a softness into the body, right? And here we don't want the body to be tight because we want to be stretching. So she's got her palms up the whole time, and she gets to that T shape. And somewhere in here, she can get the arms down. And you see how these shoulders stay down. So this is pectoralis minor, and this is what we're stretching. Good. Now go again. Soften the elbows. Come on up. Now let's stop here. So the position of the elbows is really important. Now, if this were, if this were brand new people, I'd probably leave it at that. Because they've got the overall deal. I probably wouldn't add too much detail because they'll be thinking, which way, that way, this way. I just go around and help. But say now I'm kind of adding in a little detail. Go ahead. So you get to here. If her arms come up and they're like this, you see that there starts to be impingement right here, right? So it's an important point to lift the elbows a little higher than the thumbs, so that as you come up, you have that glenohumeral rhythm of the arm. The same way you would, stop there for, put your arms down, the same way you would here. You're literally doing the same action you have in a sun salutation when you're taking your arms to the side and up when you're laying down. When you're standing up, you wouldn't bring your arms up like this, right? You'd bring them like this to leverage the chest open. So when you get to the shoulder height position, think elbow higher than thumb. And so when you come all the way around, that's still the relationship. And then they get even. Well, the elbow gets straight as you come here. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah? So in your own practice, let's do that right now. And then we'll practice placing the blocks and all of that stuff. And always thank your demonstrator. Thank you. Yeah? So I'm assuming we all know where our blocks go. And I'm just going to call the arm action. So we're laying on our backs. We have our legs extended. If you have a back issue and it does not feel safe to have your legs extended, then you can bend your knees and put your feet flat on the floor. All right. So let's bring the hands all the way down, please, to the sides of the legs. And for just this moment, turn the palms over so the palms are flat on the floor, and bring your attention into your shoulders and feel the positioning of the arm bone and the shoulder. Breathe in. On an exhale, turn the palms up and feel your shoulders change. Do you feel them change already just doing that? Do that again. Palms down feels one way. Palms up feels different. Yes? So with the palms up, start to soften the elbows and glide them to the side, making angel wings stop at the T position. Here, quite possibly, your knuckles could be on the floor, and your hands are not higher than your shoulders. So some of us have our hands higher than our shoulders here. Only a T, not hands higher than shoulders. That's it. Good. Because at this moment, this is the moment where the elbows lift. So with your knuckles on the floor, lift your elbows up a little bit. Do you feel how that starts to cantilever the chest open? Let the elbows drop lightly. Feel what happens. The shoulders start to come forward. So in this moment, lift the elbows up and inhale. Lift your arms up a little higher than you think you should. Circle the arms all the way back behind the head. And then reach long from the shoulder through the baby finger. Breathe in here. Exhale, soften the elbows, feel the shoulders release, and glide the arms open in a big circle. And when your hands get somewhere near shoulder height, that knuckles can contact the floor, and the arms glide all the way down to the hips. So we make this full range of motion. And now on your own breath, please, let's explore this range of motion. Inhaling the arms all the way over the head, And exhaling them all the way back down to the hips in your own time. And explore that motion that allows the chest to open, the positioning of the upper arm bone that allows the chest to open. Nice. So look, I think pat your elbows to be higher a bit. There, yeah. I think that gives you better motion in the shoulder. Not too much bend in the elbow. So right now you're losing the leverage of the forearms. You want your arms up here, right? So the elbows are soft, but they're not bent at a 90-degree angle. Does that make sense? Yeah. And this may be up, sorry, a little bit more. That's nice. And now with the arms out like a T, let's spend a couple moments with elbows soft and chest expansive. Feel the breath as though it comes in through the soles of the feet, underneath the belly button, wide into the ribs, underneath the collarbones, and then exhales through the arms, through the palms of the hands, and into the floor. And breathing in again from the soles of the feet, and exhaling from the heart center all the way through the arms. Making space for our physical heart to be elevated in the chest cavity, to come forward toward the front of the body. And through the arms, extending to the sides, feeling the chest muscles stretch, making room for the heart. Solar plexus soft. And the belly moving with breath. And on your next exhale, please glide your arms down slowly to your side. Breathe in and bend the knees, feet flat on the floor. Exhale, bring the left leg, left arm across the body, roll off the blocks to your right side. Please remove the blocks, lay back on your back, hug your knees into your chest. Nice. All righty. So, that's it. No Shavasana, Paco.
Oh, God. That's no truth.
Easy like Sunday morning.
Easy like Sunday.
Well, I was really impressed with everybody.
What's so neat is everybody has their own kind of energy. Yeah? Did you feel that too? Those of you who are not teaching, that each person brings a personality to the way they express themselves, to their vocal quality, and I think that's nice. Because it's nice to hear different voices when you come to class. So I like that a lot. And I thought overall you sounded very confident, which I was kind of surprised by. I thought you would sound much shakier than you did. So that was awesome. The presentation of your teaching and the way you presented yourself, every single person, and I am not a flatterer, believe me, far from it, would be like, good. That would be good. I would say, hey, hi, come on in. Yeah, I would say, sounds like a teacher, looks like a teacher, all good. So now we're just getting to details, right? Details about where we need to look and pay a little bit of attention. And it's always, you're not always sure exactly what I'm trying to get to, and I'm not always sure exactly what I'm trying to get to. So sometimes then I think, well, maybe I didn't say that or give that instruction enough. So even though I said I don't want you to do too much teaching, I would have liked to hear more breath description. Jeff did a lot of good inhale your arms up, exhale your arms down. I like that a lot. I heard far too many bring the arms up, put the arms down, arms up, arms down. To me, especially since you had such a short thing to do, I would have liked to hear sweep the arms to the side, feel the something. I would have liked to hear more action verbs. Do you know what I mean? Then put down, take down, bring down, go down. I wrote them down as I went, but I just as an overall sort of for everybody, I think it could have been a little bit more, because now you don't have to teach them how to do it. What you want to give is a feeling. There's a huge difference to left arm up and breathe the left arm up, inhale the left arm up, sweep the left arm up, feel the chest stretch as your left arm glides towards your ear. And that's kind of what I meant by enriched language, right? So when it came out, it was wonderful. I think it could be more. I thought a lot of you went a little too fast. Did you feel that as practitioners?
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to have a little more time to be in the practice. The person who did not go too fast and who really came off as super present was Alice. And she had the hardest one of all to start. And I thought the stability in your voice, and I knew you were nervous, was great. I thought everything you said was wonderful. I liked how you put, you had their eyes open, and then you had them close and focus on their internal experience. I liked how you said use your Ujjayi breath to help staying present. A couple of you said bring your hands to Namaste. This isn't really a position called Namaste. I would say bring your hands, join your hands together at heart center, because it's not accurate. It would be Anjali Mudra or hands to heart center. Sometimes we'll say bring the hands into Namaste position, like in turn like this or something, because it's a little hard to describe. But I'm not sure that I like bring your hands to Namaste, unless you're going to say Namaste. Alice, the only thing in your voice that was, for me, could have been a little stronger was your Om. Your Om was really high, so for me it's a little hard for particularly the men in the class to know where to go. I would have liked it to be a little bit gutsier. Pardon me?
Just a lower key.
A lower key, right. But it sounded, that's where you sounded nervous, was in the Om, was a little, holy shit. You did your inhale, your arms, and exhale was all really good. All the things I'm going to say are super minor for everybody, but they're not minor. They're the points that I want you to remember to say these things. So when you were talking about the wrist release, you want to make sure to say that they're leaning back away from the heels of the hands, not forward into the heels of the hands, because people will do that for sure. I would also say when you're doing that, say no weight bearing, so that those words come out. You said be gentle, all of those things, but those 2 points would need to come out in that way, I think. When you were talking about the hip circles, I liked how you said close your eyes so you can feel what you're doing, and you could have made that even more pertinent by saying feel the muscles between the bottom ribs and the pelvis, because that's really where they could feel all kinds of things, but that's kind of what we're doing with the hip circles. I would have, in Chakravakasana, you could have talked a little bit about the shoulder blade action. Feel the shoulder blades glide down as you draw the chest forward. Because especially at a Yoga 3 level, you're assuming they might know that, but you're cueing that. And I would have liked to see more of that just globally. The fact that we would cue actions or look and say, remember this, don't forget that, make sure this. So you're not, some of you were a little bit teachy and a little less remindery. Does that make sense? That's just it's a tone to use. Because the assignment was this Yoga 3 class, right? In Child's Pose, I really liked how you talked about the front and back ribs breathing. Mm-hmm. You said, feel the front ribs expanding as they touch your thigh. Also feel your back body. And the reason I'm mentioning not only places I thought it could have been improved, but good things, is so that you all will take note of that. And when you do it, do the same thing. I thought you could have stayed a little longer in child's pose. One thing that I find that our teachers do sometimes is they move too quickly out of child's pose, and I think it's nice to do a little longer. I like that you didn't do down dog with them. There was no need for you to do that, and I like that you stood up at that point, and because you were kind of showing there's things that you kind of have to show in case people aren't sure. You could also stand up at that point and be doing this, but that might confuse somebody. So I thought where you stood up was absolutely appropriate. I like that when you said Uttanasana, you said bring your weight to your toes. What you missed saying that was important was keep the knees soft, right? When you came up, you said feel your body like a tall column, which was beautiful imagery. And then you said bring your hands to Namaste in Tadasana. I guess, I don't mind this. I think it's okay if you're going to do a sun salutation. But again, this is not Tadasana. Tadasana is hands down. And because we're trying to train people to feel comfortable with their hands down and feel comfortable in this position in their lives, they're not going to walk around Camarillo standing like this. I would just like to keep training this, yeah? I get that this brings you home and all of that stuff. And if you're going to do that, then say why. Say because this brings you home. But if we're getting prepared for our practice, let's stand in mountain pose and feel our bodies here in a way that feels tall and open of heart, or whatever you're going to say. Does that make sense? So Alice, awesome job. Lori has a really sweet quality to your voice, and I said good voice quality and clarity. I think it could have been minorly louder, just a bit, especially because these are loud breathers in here. So I was in the back of the room, and so I was picturing myself as a student in the back of the room hearing your voice, and at some points it got a little bit more a little quiet. I think that you could have used more language. I think that what you were going for was less talking because it was Yoga 3. Right. And so that's why I'm clarifying. Because even if I'm teaching Yoga 3, I'm using the word feel a lot. I'm directing the feel. Okay, let's practice some arm circles. Feel the shoulder blades slide down as the chest opens. Feel the neck contract and then release as the shoulder blades move down. So that feel this as that is really good. Like sometimes you would kind of peter out some of you. You'd say, feel the big inhale and then exhale. And it's like, well, what do you feel on exhale, right? You want to bring it home after that. I think you could have done, I would just in general for all of us, if you're going to do toe raises, do at least 4 with arms down, at least 4 with arms up, because 8 toe raises is not too many. And I'm really big on toe raises. Because we're seeing, Christy and I are seeing inability of people who are older to come up on their toes, right? So I think really keeping those lower legs strong is important, and I think that that proprioception is good. And I think if you do 2 each, you're just sort of starting to get it, and then you move on. So you do 2, you wiggle around, the next 2 you feel pretty good, you kind of get your stability, then you add an element. So left arm up, yeah, again, I've got the richer language. One note, when you came forward in the Vinyasa Yoga practice and you said rounding the back, I would simply say releasing the spine, because we don't want people to actively round the back, we want them to release the back, which ends up in a mildly rounded shape. These are all minor points. Coming up, you said coming up, I would say sweeping forward, sweep the arm forward, feel the hips come back as the torso comes forward. And I also would have not done them all with them. And I will tell you why that might have been confusing to Lori, is that sometimes she comes in on an 8:30 Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, and most people know that very well. And I will often do at least 2 with the class. Maybe sometimes I even do 3 because I know they know it. That's because I have 4 more classes to teach, and I haven't already practiced today. So I personally, will sometimes do that, trusting that they know what they're doing. If you're coming in to teach 1 class, that's not something you should do. Same as in Shavasana. I will sometimes leave the room and go in there and check my email messages, because I have 4 more classes today, and I don't have time to register people for meditation course, and I have to do that, because I can't be available in the trade-in, because that's when people are asking me questions. So I just like to clarify what I'm allowed to do and what you're allowed to do. Because if you're teaching 1 class, it's different than if you're teaching 5 or 6, or sometimes I teach 8 classes in a day. And so the choices that I make are based on that, and they're not optimal. You know, if I taught 1 class, unless I had to go to the bathroom, I would be in the class the whole time. Okay, let's see. So I would only, at a Yoga 3 level, many of you, Rob, somebody else, I'll get to it. You were talking to the door between your legs, right? There's no need for you to be calling downward facing dog while you're doing it, right? So we'll get to that in a sec. I heard the word really a lot today. Really reach up, really do this, really. So the really was a really a lot. And I get that you're saying really, in other words, don't just like mark it, really reach up, but just notice how many times you say that. I thought that the closing the eyes thing was a good thing. Laura, when you're saying really reach up, it would have been good for you to say, and then feel the release of the shoulder blade. Because then you're giving them like the 2 things that go together. I think the closing the eyes, if you're going to do it, don't throw it in as kind of like you didn't really close the eyes on the first side, and you kind of threw it in on the second repetition of the second side. I'm not sure. I think it would be better to, especially if you're going to close the eyes, you want to have them stand here. Like it was kind of like they were already going, and you're saying you can close your eyes if you want. If I was going to close the eyes, I would talk about it. Say, let's withdraw the senses. Let's practice pratyahara. Let's close our eyes and feel what changes when the eyes are closed, standing, then move into movements. It's okay to do it at that level, but we want to make it a practice, not just a throwaway. And I think that would be the case at any level. I would want to distinguish that so that people don't, you kind of get thrown off. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Or you can, I can close my eyes now. So I would just put it in as a distinct practice. So you might have done 1, so well, that was our warm-up. Now let's close our eyes for the second 2. The other thing that we generally do in Yoga 3 is if we're doing Viniyoga, on the 3rd one we turn to spider, right? Because that was kind of an awkward transition where we stepped forward and then we just kind of turned around and went to spider, right? It's just cleaner at this level to transition in the lunging type position. Does that make sense, everybody? I love when you said hello adductors. It was light and it was morningful and it was right on. Let's see. Oh yeah, I had a class competition the other day to try to figure out a way to say take your arms to the side where people wouldn't bring them into a V shape. Because I realized that as we're coming up, and I'm saying take your arms right out to the side, people think that means bring your arms to your sides. Mm-hmm. So I said to the class, let's think about were you anybody here that day? Mm-hmm. Let's figure out what would help you to feel your arms. To me, this is arms to the side, but that's not what people are getting in their minds, which doesn't make either of us right. It's just what works, right? And I like that someone said, she said, bring your arms to a T shape. And most people seem to agree that a T shape gave them the image, right? So sweep your arms open to a T shape, or inhale, expand the chest, arms in a T shape. Seems to be kind of useful. And I went over the difference the other day between V shape and T shape, right? So that seemed to clarify for people what that means. So you can think about how you might include that in your own practice. You didn't have to worry about that as you did it, because when you said arms to the side, which was great, which is what I have said, they did that. But I'm realizing that people don't do that. And so that's just a possibility. And it's one example of how we want to be looking to use what works, right? All of us, to keep, and that's why Mike's here, and that's why Christy is here. It's so that we can keep thinking about what's the best way to express this so that people can understand it, yeah? And that's kind of the beauty of it, continually grows and evolves, yeah? All right. Rob. Rob has a great voice, very clear. I think you were going too fast. Use the word bring a lot. Talking to the door and down dog. In the lateral poses, if you're going to mirror them, you did it with them the whole time at Yoga 3 level, you don't have to do that. You would maybe, what I generally do is, they've come, say they've done their revolve thing, they've come up and down on their toes, we've stepped forward to lateral poses. If I want to make a point, like Barry made a point, I'll come over here, right? And I might do the first side with them. But in general, in Yoga 3, you don't even have to do that. But I think I said maybe do a few on the first side and then not. Did I say that? Something like that, yeah? So it's really hard for them to be in a lateral pose doing sideways and you're up there. That's only in Power Yoga. The only time that happens, or when I'm talking to the door, is in Power Yoga, because we've clarified that I'm not teaching, I'm practicing, and I'm just calling out what I'm doing. So you want to move to the side, and if you are, and you caught it, Rob, if you are mirroring them for some reason up here, your belly should be facing the same way theirs is. Otherwise, it's kind of confusing for the watcher. Yeah. Let's see. I would change the word, Rob, twist to rotate. Okay. Twist from your waist, twist from your, rotate a better word, because twisting kind of can get a little bit overzealous. On side angle pose and on revolved high lunge, I think. Did you have revolved high lunge?
Yes.
Yeah. You said reach up to the ceiling. I would, for side angle pose, I would say reach to where the wall and ceiling meet, or reach over the windows, because to me, in side angle pose, reach up to the ceiling means here, right? So slide your arm past your ear, feel the long line from baby finger to hip, or reach above the window. These are all minor points, but they are points. You said feel the stretch in the hip flexor, and at that point, I guess you were in. Okay, you got to mention which one, because one hip is in flexion, one hip is in extension, and they don't really know what, maybe they don't know what that means. So feel the stretch in the back hip flexor. After your next exhale, bring your foot forward. Again, after your next exhale, bring your foot forward. So you would want to say, breathe in, bend your knees, exhale, step your foot forward. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Right, but you don't want to say after your next exhale, bring your foot forward, because after your next exhale, you're inhaling, right? You want to exhale, you want to be exhaling as you step the foot forward. Because when you're in the pose, you're trying to coordinate your breath with the action that the person is calling. So people are actually hearing that and making a choice. So that's why it's kind of useful. And this was something for everybody. Give the name of the pose first before the action. Because people are kind of taking an action not knowing where they're going. Okay, coming to crescent pose. Bend the knees, inhale, step the left foot forward, exhale. And I'm guilty of it. Sometimes I forget to do it too. It would depend though. Like say you've come out of warrior and you said bring your hands down. You might say inhale your arms open, exhale bend the knees, hands to hip creases, shift the hips. Now you would say side ankle pose. Right hand down. That could all be okay. But as soon as you start to get to something that's going to be unclear, you got to give them an idea where they're going.
But at one point you said, don't announce what you're going to do. So I had trouble trying to figure out the difference between giving them a cue where they're going versus announcing what you're going to do.
Now we're going to do crescent pose. Now we're going to do the downward facing dog. That's what I consider an announcement, right?
Now we're going to.
Because that's too many words. Coming to crescent pose. You know, Parshva Konasana, shift your hips, da 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 da. Because what I was getting to, Pat, was the now we're going to do,
Oh,
right?
okay.
That's a repetitive thing that a lot of you, and now we're going to do this, or now you're going to do this.
Yeah.
And so, thank you, yes.
Because they didn't know where I was going, I noticed.
Right, right, well, good that you saw that, yeah?
Yeah, I saw it.
I like, Rob, how you cue the base before the arm. Again, I put cue the breath more. Like you can say, breathe in, extend the spine. Exhale, rotate the spine. Again, which doesn't imply that they don't know how to do that. It's just giving them those cues that they might be forgetting. Does that make sense? Yeah, all right. Lisa, what, down dog, feel your down dog sit bones back enough, that was good. I put in here, I circled it, use the word remember. Remember to do this, or make sure you do this. I'm not sure who else it was, maybe I'll get to it. Oh yeah, I think you said, like I would do, you said at some point, did you apologize for yourself in some way?
No, I just feel I wish I could breathe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's okay here, but don't do that in front of the class. Because it really, those are people who are paying for their class, and if they don't feel like you feel comfortable, you can joke around about a boo-boo, but I would just be careful. Like, I liked how Barry realized that he forgot to do something, and just as a matter of fact, he said, okay, well, let's put the things down because I forgot to mention where you need to put your blocks. But he didn't look like he was in a panic about it. And I got a little like, ooh, And then as a brand new student, you're going, oh, this person is frightened, so am I. Because you don't know if they're going to hurt you. You know what I mean? But Barry, then when you cued it, you didn't tell them where to put, where's Barry? Oh, there. You didn't tell them where to put their blocks correctly. You said put your blocks, but you should have told them to put their blocks on the right side for Warrior 2, right? So you got them to come all the way down and you didn't tell them what to do right. So you want to put their blocks, you forgot, then say put your blocks up front to the right side because we'll be coming to Warrior 2. I thought that was very cute because I was going, oh wow, good, Barry, kind of fun. That was good. I know we're all nervous here, so that's the nature of it. I'm just telling you. Sweep one arm forward, one back leg might be missing. I wasn't sure what tin soldier shoulders meant. I know what it was. Remember in the directions I said one person doesn't know how to do this, so you're going to have to cue it a little more. So the standard cue would be something like this. With forehead, so we've come down to the floor, Ardha Shalabhasana, move your blocks if they're in the way. If you're not sure, follow my direction, I'll come around and help you. With forehead to the floor and knuckles to the floor, exhale all the breath out completely. Inhale, squeeze between the shoulder blades, sweep one arm forward and reach the other leg back. Exhale, sweep the arm back, turn your head to the side, put your leg on the floor and rest completely. And so something like that gives them kind of the overview, and then you walk around and you help them. Remember we did that? You physically move them a little bit, and you kind of go in. And while you're doing that, you talk, and you say, you're kind of looking around. Hopefully they're all going. A lot of the times, that's a hard one to teach and to guide. I'll just figure that 9/10 of these people know how to do it. If somebody's visiting and they don't know how to do it, the person I'm going to go to help is not going to be them. Because they're only going to be here one time. I'm not going to be able to teach them this whole thing in the 8 repetitions we're going to do of this. I'm going to go to somebody who I know is going to maybe be a more regular student, and I want to help them. They'll flounder a little bit. They'll say when they left, oh, I didn't really know how to do that, but it'll be over. Because our attention wants to go to the students who are mostly here. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. If that's the only person who doesn't know how to do it, then I'll go over to them. But inevitably, there's somebody who's just moved. Well, hopefully by Yoga 2, you know how to do this. So when you come to Yoga 3, you should know how to do it. But that's not always the case. So that was a hard one that's a very hard one to call. And probably, I heard Anthony saying to Karen that when he was practicing to teach his class on Saturday morning, he literally said it out loud many times. Is that correct? I think with something like that, as we're getting these little assignments, I would practice saying it out loud numerous times, and maybe even put your phone and record it so you see if you're getting the main points, because it's a lot to come out. Remember Mike? Mike would be standing in front of me going blah, 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 as I'm saying it, because it's a lot to come out of your mouth. And if you just think it, and I don't know, did you actually physically say it, Lisa, when you're practicing it? You did? Okay.
So many words I didn't use.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you're nervous. Okay, so there you go. That's just the nature of it, and it takes a while to do it. You said something about seed pose and then classical child's pose. So to me, seed pose and classical child's pose are the same thing. Hands beside the feet, right? What do you think classical child's pose is?
I thought
she said
classical
four.
was when the arms are out in front of you is classical, and your feet, your knees are open, and your arms are out. And then seed pose is knees touching, toes touching, arms at your side.
Actually, seed pose is classical child's pose. So classical child's pose looks like this.
Okay.
These are variations on child's pose. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Just in case somebody comes and they know. It's good to know those things. So if I didn't make that clear, now it's clear.
But every time we go to child's pose, we rarely go to seed pose.
Right.
We tend to go to seed pose when you say seed pose.
Correct. Because for many people,
Uh-huh.
that's not doable.
Uh-huh.
When they're like this, they're kind of like this,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So, it just depends on what you did before and what you're gonna do next.
I
If
just
I'm
want the
gonna stay
definition
3
right.
breaths here, if I'm gonna come here and I'm just here for a breath or 2, I don't wanna have to go here and go here. I know I'm gonna come up and go here. So those are just, it depends.
I just think that that's how we thought that was classic child's pose, because that's when you call it, that's what we're always doing.
Okay, but I
And
never
seed
call it
pose.
classic child's
No, but
pose.
you say child's pose, and then seed is always specific. So
Okay.
I'm just saying that's where we're getting that from.
Okay,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me where you're getting it from. I'm just telling you what it is. All right?
I just want you to understand why we're confused.
Yeah, okay, it's not a criticism. It's just, I'm trying to move along. All right. So you guys have to just get that I'm not criticizing you. I am really not.
No, I'm just letting you know that's why I got confused.
Okay, fine. So, okay, good. Now we're clear. I'm just clarifying. Could be that I didn't say that in the past, and so I'm trying to clarify that now. Press up and back to child's pose. Yeah, I think you said press back to child's pose. So I would just say press up and back to child's pose, very minor. Because remember, I'm writing as you're going, so I'm not quite sure that I always get everything perfectly. I heard exhale, let it go. A couple people said that before. Unless that's a song, I would let that go.
It's frozen, Audrey.
I know. Exhale, let it go. I don't know. You could say that once in a blue moon, maybe. Like, breathe in, feel the breath expanding the back ribs. Exhale, release completely. Exhale, feel the body sink. Exhale, let it go to me like, whoa. Which, maybe. If you're breathing in on the belly, take a great big breath in, and exhale, let it go. And then it would depend on how you say it, yeah? Just like Jeff, when you said, relax. To me, you were telling them to fidget, and you were fidgeting. I don't like shaking it out. I don't like just relax, because it loses your attention in the practice. Does that make sense? So, for me, if you finish something here, and you come down and you stand here, take a slow breath in. Exhale, stand into your Tadasana. Again, different than power yoga. Power yoga, we're kind of fooling around. I'm kind of saying go to your next position. It's a way different way that I teach in power yoga than I would do in a teaching class. Does that make sense? And we definitely don't want to tell people to do this, right? Because we want them to experience the release of the sensation in their feet. So if you're feeling sensation in your feet, Feel the breath, feel the feet soften, feel the energy release in the feet. No shaking it out. That's in like some other thing, I don't know, Zumba, something like that. Let's see what else. Let's meet in down dog. Do I say that?
I say that.
I hate that.
Sorry.
What are we gonna have like a coffee or something? Let's meet in down dog? Because that puts you into this, we all have to end up at the same place together. I guess, I mean, it's okay. I just don't, well,
But you hate it.
I hate it. I mean, if I were a student in a class like that, I'd go, like, let's meet in down dog. Good thing I don't, I don't like that.
Sounds like a bar.
Yeah, I mean, I like actions. I like actions. Draw the hips back to down dog. Feel the breath as you stabilize in down dog. For me, it has a lot more sense. And that's what I really didn't feel. I felt it in Alice. I felt like she embodied it. She really embodied the presence of the practice within her teaching. And I felt like for everybody else there was, and I know it's nerves, there's a little bit of a throwaway quality, a little less dignity, and I know that you're nervous, so just don't take it as a criticism, just take it as how I felt it. You know what I mean? There's difference between, like, I don't know.
Just one comment, Audrey.
Yeah,
When Darcy has used it in her class,
yeah,
it was very effective for me because it was in a situation where she gave people some choices.
okay.
And she said you could do it this way, or you could do the, I forgot, whatever, and let's all meet in down dog. So some of us might have picked it up in that
See,
scenario.
now, well, there's a good, there's always, I'm always like, if you can explain to me why you would make a choice like that,
Yeah.
then I can understand it better.
It's like when we're doing the A series and the B, and then you go, we'll meet at Tadasana, and then we'll start our B series together.
Right.
That's good. I like that.
She says
That
that
makes
all
sense.
the time.
There you go. Okay. That wasn't the case in that particular
Right.
circumstance.
That's true.
So yeah. Again, I'm open to changing my mind about a lot of stuff. If you can tell me why you might say something and it might work, I'll go, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. I put, Pat, use breath language, bring down, come down.
Did I do
Bring down, bring, I got bring in big letters underlined. So, because by now I have to look at my notes because I'm starting to forget. So, call the pose before the action, you mentioned that yourself. Use breath cues. In crescent pose you said release the back heel down. That would be press the back heel down. Release would be a passivity. This is an action, it's a strong action. Press the back heel down. You said keep the ribs down so you aren't arching, which was good. I mean, the information was correct, but you would want to say draw the front ribs down, lifting the pubic bone up. Because if you say keep the ribs down, here we're stretching our ribs and we're lifting them up, and you're saying take, and the first thing I thought you wanted was for them to take this step. So I wasn't sure what you meant, right? So it's a little different. Come down into Parshvottanasana. Shift the hips back into Parshvottanasana would have been a better way to say it. You said keep your sit bones level. The intention was right. I would say keep the pelvis level. It's kind of hard to feel your sit bones getting level. It's easier to feel your ilia getting level. I like how you said you have some choices here. I loved how you said soften your knee to set up for a revolved triangle. I said more cueing for the revolved triangle. I know you were thinking it was Yoga 3, but still a little bit more cueing would have been good. Up on the toes, then come down. Yeah, again, the cueing in the crescent pose was a little weak for me. Keep the ribs in. So you repeat that again. I like how you used your own experience. Sometimes I like to da-da-da-da-da. I really like when teachers do that because it sort of shows that you practice too and it makes it familial. I'd like you to be more comfortable talking without doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's for everybody.
Then when I got to at the end, I forgot which hand.
Yeah.
Without being in that position, I like totally lost it.
Sure, and I put more cueing, like make sure that your this is that. Remember to da-da-da. Throw in some muscles, reaching, feeling latissimus dorsi, stretch from da-da-da-da-da. Right? Because in Yoga 3 you can do that because they've had lessons now, and it cues them to remember, oh yeah, when I reach like this, my whole lat stretches. And then you said like go to whatever side. I mean, that's
That was
okay.
where I lost
Yeah, that's
it.
where you lost it. Okay, well, then you, yeah, that was all right. Bring the arm up, open the heart. Bring was a little bit overused.
Okay.
Suzanne's told people where they were going first, which is awesome. I thought you went a little minorly too fast, Suzanne, because you had such good points to make and they almost got thrown away. It was like you had lots of good stuff to say. And I think that was just obviously yours. You said pull your head through your arms. I never like to give head cueing. Pull your chest through your arms if you're going to come to plank. Keep your head out of your shoulders and your shoulders out of your head. I'm not sure how you take your head out of your shoulders. I have, it's not a direction that gives me a body cue that I can understand because your head can't move independently. So I would just say, draw your shoulders back out of your ears, feel the scapula stabilize. Now, to be fair, all of you who had to teach plank and cobra and all of that stuff, we are going to go over the plank and stuff today. So I'll give you a lot of leeway on that because we haven't really gone over that. I wasn't sure what you meant by strengthen the hands. Not sure how to strengthen my hands. Spread out the fingers would have been, make sure your fingers are spread out, make sure the weight is not resting in the heels of the hand, something like that. I liked how you directed the elbows to be in. Oh, and I like how you said initializing through the shoulders was awesome. And you could have said initialize through the shoulders, squeeze between your shoulder blades, because without a direct body action, initialize through the shoulders doesn't necessarily give a visual picture of what you need to do. So giving a visual picture really important. When you said hands move forward, I would use the arm direction rather than the hands. Hands generally moving from the distal to the proximal, kind of good. So sweep the arm forward, thumb up, palm up, or with the palm up. And then you said, and come back down. So come back down is kind of like that other thing, come back to part. I would say sweep the arms back, turn the head, feel the side of the neck releasing as the cheek contacts the floor. You said you were going to help the person in the front because you mentioned that he hadn't done it before, and then I didn't see you actually help him.
No, because he did it all right.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. You're supposed to not do it right. No. Fair enough. Okay, good. Contact with each. Turn your neck to allow your neck. Yeah. Okay, good. And I would be careful about whatever's most comfortable in terms of. It seemed like a couple of those things could have been. I'm not always sure I want people to be the most comfortable. I would say whatever's most useful for you. I think you said it in child's pose, so that would be good. But there was someplace else where you said whatever was most comfortable, and I thought, well, I'm not sure that comfortable would be the word. But for certainly in child's pose, comfortable would be a good word in child's pose because you want to be relaxed. And I thought you could have called the breath. Inhale the arms forward, exhale the arms back. But yeah, so overall everybody was good.
But you could totally hear Suzanne's teacher voice.
Yeah, no, she got up there and I went, wow. She's like, this is what we're gonna do, and you've done that, and it was great. Started off, I went, ooh, good. He said, on your next inhale, reach your hands forward. But then I would have liked to hear you say, then exhale your hips back and up. If you're gonna call one, call the other. Not that you always do that, but and then you said go down to cat pose. I was, why are you saying that? But then that was why you did that. So okay, good. I still down dog, one leg up. You can call that empower yoga, But in a class where you're teaching 4 poses and I've asked for enriched language, I'd like to hear you say, with the leg straight, take the toes 2 inches off the floor and slide the leg back. Feel the leg as part of your arm. Feel the leg pulling you back. Because you only have a few poses. So let's make it as juicy and rich as you can. Your mouth should be moving a mile a minute, which is still Yoga 3, right? Because you're not teaching them. You're just giving them cues. I love how you put regained composure after your boo-boos. You just made it part of the whole thing. I didn't feel like you were insecure. I felt like you were going, whoops, restart, rewind. I loved what you did with triangle pose. I thought that was awesome. There was something, tell me as students, there was something a bit odd. I like that you chose not to do it with them. It was a good choice because it showed confidence in being able to call the poses without having to do with. But there was something about you kind of standing there watching them belly on while they were doing all that and calling the poses. Did that bother you at all? Did you
Not at
notice
all.
it at all? Nobody noticed it at all.
I noticed it.
So for me, if I know that it's Yoga 3 and I'm not going to be giving them any big points and I'm not going to be demonstrating, I will either stand at the back of the room or behind them to call it. Because in Yoga 3, I want you to feel like you're in your practice. I don't really want to be in your eye line unless I'm making a point. Because me standing there kind of looking at you and calling things, to me, if we were a teacher doing that, I'd be kind of like, I'd really like to look at that wall. Could you just move? That's what I'd be thinking as a student. Because I like to feel at in Yoga 3 again, even though you're there and you're reminding them, you're allowing them to feel that this is their own practice a little bit. Does that make sense at all? So that would have been my choice. And then, where you came in to show them what you wanted with the triangle pose. That was, to me, the right moment. And the one thing I would have said with that, I loved how where you were looking at that long line there's 2 things. To lengthen the side waist. I would have talked about that side as pressing down for stability. And that stability on your right side will give you the anchor for the left side extension. Does that make sense? Because this line in itself means not so much, right? Because this really isn't where you're going. This line was really where you were going, but you were trying to get that it's all connected, and this side is in mountain pose. And then what I would have liked to see was in your triangle pose instruction, a little more continuing that. Feel the underside waist get long. Because it was almost like you made that point and then you let it go, and you let them go into triangle pose any old way. I mean, you had taken it on, you'd gotten their attention, then I would have looked to sustain that attention. Now as your hand comes down, if your stance is too short, you'll feel that underside waist bunch. So maybe the foot needs to go back a bit more so you can maintain what you started here. Does that make sense? Yeah? And you might have also talked about deciding whether you should soften the knee to come down, depending on how your hamstrings are feeling today, or whether you would keep the leg straight. The other thing you could have talked about was taking the sit bone underneath, right? Because here's a good place right here to feel whether or not you're sticking your bottom out, and to feel that sit bone come under, because you wouldn't stand in mountain pose like that, right? So those are just possibilities to add on to what you started, but what you started was really good. You said turn your head forward in Ardha Chandrasana, and I think forward was confusing. I would say turn your head to look down where your block and hand are going to go. And for me, I think there was so much fast verbal cueing on the Ardha Chandrasana, it was hard to follow. Was it hard for you to follow? No?
Well, the other thing is, it's Yoga 3, right?
Yeah?
So if we know we're going there, then most of the students are gonna kind of know, and then it's sort of guided.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. He had all the right things. He said, where to take your block, where to put it, how to bend the knee, how to come up. It seemed really natural to
Well,
me.
I would say for you, Yoga 3, But for people who are Yoga 3 in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I always demonstrate the first side with them, right? So here I am. Okay, so let's practice Ardha Chandrasana. Bend the knee, shift the hips, keeping the left arm on your side. Look down where you're going to put your hand. Place your hand on the block, walk the foot in, take the back leg up, maybe you straighten the bottom leg, and then open the chest. So they're doing those steps with you. Because if they know it as well as you say they knew it, then you didn't have to say all those things. That's Yoga 4. Then on the second side, he had all the points. Then on the second side, maybe you say that. Or maybe you just watch and you see what they didn't do the first time, and then you put that on. Like once they were there, what I really would have liked to hear you saying was, especially on the second side, notice if your bottom foot is turned in, which 3/4 of you had your bottom foot turned in. Notice if your back leg is behind you and you're arching your back. So once we, and I know this is hard, because you're just thinking about what you've got to say next and where you got to get them going. But especially in a pose like that where they're there for a while, then you're going to comment on what you see, right? You don't have to call people out unless you want to. I liked how you saw that Paco was a little too low. And you said it, yeah, and you just said, Paco, come up a little higher. It was simple, it was quick, it didn't center him out, and it was good. It was a good eye. Let's see, it didn't take away from what you were doing. I love how you did left arm past your cheek and feel something. Where was that? As you were reaching, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of good things in there, and then little places to add on. Yeah.
So there's one person at the end.
Pardon me?
At the end, he said, "It looks really good, everybody, but one person, we couldn't see."
Everyone thought it was them.
There was nobody, I wanted you to worry about it.
That's a new kind of yoga. It's like worrying yoga. Shame yoga.
It's one person.
As we practice this pose, I know there's one person who's too fat to do it. You can just sit down. And the rest of us will do it. You can watch. Yeah, that'd go over big. Right? I mean, it worked for Gordon Ramsay, right?
Just to be clear, I would not do
Yes,
that
it
with a
gave
real
you a
crowd.
I thought you were talking about Brian. All right. Lisa,
Just a reminder.
there's just something about Lisa when she teaches that you just want to cuddle her. You just go and she says, she's the nicest person. You say you're going to do this a little too much. You're going to do this next, you're going to do that. I would leave that out. Call the pose before the action or call the action faster. I'm not sure what you were saying when you said inhale your pelvis up. I think you were trying to get a lot of detail in the plank, and I wasn't sure what inhale the pelvis up meant. I think you could have said maybe draw the pubic bone in or watch that your pelvis isn't sinking. I think in Yoga 3 you got to, again, use language like watch that this isn't, if you're going to give a thing, watch that this isn't happening. Remember to do this, right? Because again, it gets a little bit more, a little bit less teachy, a little more just cueing. I gave the direction with the elbows in, no chicken wings, that was great. I think it was, I think Suzanne, you said something like glue your shoulders to your sides. Did you say that? Something like that. So just elbows to the sides. And I want to be careful. I don't want people to squeeze too hard. But we'll go over that when we talk about plank and chaturanga.
Yeah.
In the child's pose to the side. So we don't want to say walk your fingers over, because I could walk my fingers over and be like this, right? So the thing about child's pose is that you actually want to rotate your spine and draw the belly button over the thigh, suction cup the hand down, pull the same side sit bone back from the hand to stretch the side waist. Because the walking your fingers over will end up in a C shape and the person will look like Stephen Hawking. Okay. It's true. That's what your spine does. All right. Let's see. Exhale and throw away. Yeah, there was a little bit of inhaling your ribs wide, and then the exhale had a throwaway somewhere. You said wrap your hands in down dog. I'm not sure how you wrap your hands. And I would just emphasize the exhale. I think you had a hard one to call because a lot of that was stuff that we hadn't done before. I think that Jeff has a really playful demeanor, and it comes out really well. And you made a good recovery from the boo-boo of me not seeing who was supposed to go next. I apologize for that. You didn't need to do that down dog in the beginning. You were talking to the floor. They were already going. You want to stand up. I love that you cued the breath. I thought that you had really good breath cueing. Again, I put call the pose. See, I'm just writing as I go. So call the pose before the action. I think when you came to the standing pigeon, they were already in it. They were already starting to cross, and you said use the blocks if you prefer. So it might be good before they get into it to say, you might need your blocks, and so let's have them up front just in case you need them. First part. Oh yeah, I would explain in this the standing pigeon that as you sit down, you're waiting for the first hip to stretch a little bit. That's what this part is about, right? You don't want to go right into your deepest pose, because if this hasn't stretched very much, you're going to be like this, and you could hurt yourself actually.
What do you mean by first hip?
First hip. That's a great question, and that's probably not a great description. Your cross-leg hip.
Okay.
So as I'm sitting down, the hip that's really stretching, as you first sit, you feel it here, right? Because that's like doing pigeon on the floor. So feel that stretch of the right side hip, and then deepen the stretch by sitting the hips back. Now the action is primarily to sit the left sit bone back and to sit a little more deeper into the left hip, palms up. And I think a little bit more action calling would have been good. Like here, when you said, you could have said, push with the left leg, pull with the arms to come up, because you want to go to the main action. I noticed when you were in catch and match, you said feel the heat building in the left leg. So it's just not so important. What would be more important would be feeling that the knees come close to match, and if they don't, bending the standing knee to lift the pubic bone, descend the tailbone. You said contract the glute, but you didn't say which one. So we primarily want to contract this glute, right? So a little bit more precise. And again, this is all assuming that you had done this 100 times, right? So this is the first time you did it, so it's all good. But it's good to hear this information. No, I put relax. No. Just like saying relax. No. Just tell them to come into the pose and breathe. Don't tell them to relax and shake it out. A couple of you said things like feel the stretch. You're in a pose and you go feel the stretch. And if you're going to say feel the stretch, tell them where. Like, I think, Laura, you were in Vinyasa and you said feel the stretch. Okay, so feel the stretch in my back, in my hip. You can just say feel the stretch, but I think poor teachers say that. I go to classes where the teacher isn't so good and they'll go, feel the stretch. And I'm like, a lot of stretches to feel,
I have a question. I totally get to shake it out as more beach volleyball than yoga.
Right.
What I was trying to do, I guess what I felt was like, it felt like we had a lot of heat going and been on that leg for a while.
Right.
And so what would be a better way to allow them to release? Because I know like we weren't going to do another set of poses and then come back. We were going to go straight from
Right.
one leg to the other. And
Right.
I wanted to release that. Is there a better way?
Feel the cooling quality of the exhale.
Okay. And
Right.
is there an action that I could have put in
No,
the hip
and you
circles?
should not.
And you just wanted to go from one
Because it's
to
yoga.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Because in no case do we want people to feel they have to go away to relax.
Mhm.
Because that's what this is. It's like when people come and they come out and they go, it's like taking their foot away. Their muscles will relax, they're just not used to using them.
Okay.
So if they're here and they come up, again, different than power yoga. We are fooling around in power yoga, and I have no take on that. But if I'm here, if you come to like a Yoga 3 class on Thursday night, I will say, stand the foot. You'll see me in my own practice. I mean, there's no time ever that unless I'm falling and I'm off balance, where I go like this. There's always a sequential action with breath. Exhale, inhale, exhale, stand down. Here would be a good place to bring the hands to the heart center. Take a slow breath in and feel yourself centered in your practice, right? So it's saying you've just done this hard thing, and now you're digging deeper inside and getting quieter and calmer to come to the other side. Does that make sense? So we're not looking to cool off and relax. We're really not. Relaxation comes from the breathing. Relaxation isn't just sitting on your couch and watching TV. Do you know there's two different ways to relax? Does that make sense to you? Yeah? Okay. All right.
I think one confusion would be if it was a yoga 2 or a yoga 1, you might say, we've been on that foot for a long time. Let's rotate our ankles for a bit. Or so, would you do that to kind of break it up, or no, not there either?
Probably not. Well, see, I wouldn't be doing that in yoga too. Well, no, you want to start training people to deal with discomfort right from the beginning, right? So I might gear the program. I might say, finish, feel the foot release, feel the muscles slowly unwinding, feel your breath allowing you to relax within the sensation. Then maybe I would do something like this slowly and mindfully. I wouldn't just say, okay, so we've been standing in that for a long time, let's just circle it around. That's like aerobics teaching, right? Where there's no real mindfulness to the body, we're just doing things. So, do you hear what I'm saying? I want people to be able to manage the sensation in a way that is yogic, which means that you're uncomfortable and you breathe there, right? And the breath is what helps you relax, not something else. All right. Let's see. How come you got a little quiet on us? I had a hard time hearing you over those loud breathers. I mean, I don't know. I was sitting in the back. I would love to see you get a little bit. And I liked how you said. Oh, I have to go back to Jeff. Sorry. I liked how you said, and I know this isn't mine, but let's do hip circles, because that was a good choice after that. And I just would have said why. Why should you say? Because we've been using those muscles to support us, so let's just move them around a little bit now, because it will feel good, or something. It's always good to say why. So I didn't actually mean for you to do 4 half sun salutations, because I wouldn't put 4 half sun salutations in that area. I was just going to have you do 1 to get them to the other thing. But I thought it was kind of good that you did it, because it was good practice in teaching it. So that actually kind of worked out well. However, I would not have done them all with them. Maybe I would have done the first one, if you're going to do 4, and then I would watch them on the rest and call it. Especially on sun salutations, because you're talking to your legs, right? Again, different than power yoga, where I'm practicing and I'm just calling out and I'm talking to my legs because I'm practicing. And a little bit of up and down language. Inhale up, exhale down. But everything you demonstrated, you did very well. So the demonstration reflected what you were showing, and I thought that was really good. Sometimes when we're nervous and we demonstrate, we don't do it as well as we would in our own practice, so I like that that was the case. Use more action words. Oh, you said all the way down, all the way back up a number of times. All the way this, all the way that. So I would use more action words, Feel the hips doing this. Feel your weight going back. Feel your weight coming forward. And so especially if you're doing 3 of something, you call out different things every single time, even if they're just simple points. Same thing with dolphin. You were talking to the wall. In dolphin, you don't even have to get down and do it with them. You can just show them, put your come to the front of the mat, interlace your fingers, elbows shoulder distance apart, because unless you're teaching it, they know how to do dolphin. And again, I put feel that stretch where, question mark. Yeah. All right, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, good, good. So just know that, I just keep trying to say this over and over, I have to say this stuff, I can't just not say it. All right, let's take a break and we'll go on.